Welcome back. We're taking you next to a story playing out in Madhya Pradesh right now. The Architecture Survey of India will be presenting the survey report for Bhojshala temple as we speak in the High Court today. We'll be bringing you details from what it is that the report has said. We'll actually share some of those details with you on the show. Remember, a few months ago, the ASI has been conducting, this is a survey it's been conducting for a few months now, on the medieval era Bhojshala complex in the Dhar district in Madhya Pradesh. As we've told you a little while earlier, they had even sought more time to complete the entire exercise. This was back in April when they'd actually asked for 8 more weeks to complete this entire exercise. Just want to bring you a quick summary before we go over to our legal correspondent. Remember, Hindus consider the Bhojshala, an ASI protected 11th century monument, to be a temple dedicated to the Vagh Devi. The Muslim community in the region calls it the Kamal Maula Mosque. We'll go over to our colleague who's going to bring us more context on this. Our legal correspondent Ananya Bhatnagar joins us right now. Ananya, just tell us a little bit more about what CNN has been able to access about the details.
Well, definitely, it's a 151-page report that has been filed by, in fact, the Archaeological Survey of India when it comes to, in fact, the survey that was conducted, the scientific survey, in fact, that was conducted at the Bhojshala site. Remember that the Hindus call it a temple while the Muslims say it was a mosque. However, the ASI survey goes on to say something very, very different. It says that the mosque wall, that is the mirhab, as they call it in the Islamic structures, is in fact, a new structure that has been built over a pre-existing structure of a temple. The Sanskrit inscriptions were actually damaged and reused for floors and walls of this particular mosque is also what this report goes on to suggest. In fact, it also goes on to say that pillars of pre-existing temples were, were actually, reused in this particular, remaking of this particular mosque while a temple was being demolished. So basically what this report suggests is that temple that was a pre-existing, pre-existing hub of literature and educational activities was actually damaged. And then a mosque was built over it. Remember that this kingdom, this temple, the pre-existing structure, dates back to the Parampara period, which is with regards to, the kingdoms of the Hindu kingdom in the Madhya Pradesh. And very clearly and categorically, if I quote a part of this particular report, it goes on to say that the art and architecture of these pillars and pilasters in fact, the colonnade suggests that they were originally a part of temples for their reuse. In the existing structure, figures of deities and humans carved on them were actually mutilated. And interestingly, what were those deities that were found? The images carved on these included Ganesh, Brahma, with his consorts Narsimha, Bhairava. The gods and goddesses of human and animal figures were also something that were, engraved on these pillars, is what, in fact, the ASI report goes on to suggest.
Ananya, what now? Tell us, what are the next steps?
Well, if you see, the finding of these reports would be, the objections could be raised on this particular report. Remember that this was a scientific survey ordered by the Madhya Pradesh High Court. And now, in fact, the report would be objected to. Objections would be raised by both the sides on this particular report, if at all they want to object to any of the findings of this particular report. And then, a civil trial in this case would begin where, both these sides would present their arguments as to how, this belongs to the Hindu side or in fact to the Muslim side. Interestingly, this was declared a monument of certain years ago. So how would the position change? How would it fall in either of the religion's domain? It's something that would be very, very interesting to see. Remember that, similar cases have emerged out in Varanasi with the Gyanvapi Mosque, or if we see the classic case of the Ram temple, the Ayodhya temple being there, the whole title dispute, which is one of the first, disputes when it comes to this whole case. So now, there would be objections raised by both these sides, and let's see whether or not the Muslim side actually challenges the findings of this particular report.
Ananya, how would this measure against the existing Places of Worship Special Provisions Act of 1991, though, this particular case?
Well, see, there is no bar when it comes to Section 3 to rejudge or recalculate, in fact, the findings of a religious characteristic of a particular place of worship. You cannot change it, but you can definitely just, identify the findings of a particular report. If you remember that these were also the words of the Chief Justice of India, Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, who had, in fact, at that particular point of time stated that, there is no bar when it comes to this whole issue. But the same is challenged before before the Supreme Court as well. The Place of Worship Act is under challenge before the topmost court of the country. So we'll have to see as to how things pan out and whether or not and how, things pan out when it comes to the Bhojshala survey. Andy.
Okay, Ananya, thank you for those details. We're going to head into a quick break. On the other side, more of the country's top stories. This is the Breaking News Show on CNN News 18.